Welcome, everybody. Commissioner McKee is joining us. Commissioner Bedford is at another meeting, and it's a little bit far away, and so she's going to be a little bit late. So thank you for all joining us. This is our regular board meeting, March 19th, at the Southern Human Services Center. And if you all can silence your phones or do whatever you need to do to make sure that they don't ring. We're going to start with additions and changes to the agenda, and I have three. 4A was Dwayne Brinson's presentation on the tax base 2021 countywide reevaluation. He is not feeling well, so he asked if we could move that to a later date. So we're going to take 4A out, if that's okay with everyone. And Bob Morato asked us if we can move the two appointments for 11A and B up to 4. So if we can move them to 4B and C then, and then move 4A to another agenda another time, if that is okay with everyone?
It's fine.
Okay. Great. Okay, public charge, I'm going to let you all read that. You can do that all on your own. And now we're going to start with our arts moment.
Good evening. It's my pleasure to introduce Joan Berezovska, who grew up in Philadelphia and now lives here in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. She is an academic therapist in private practice. Joan co-hosts the Flyleaf Books Second Thursday Poetry Series at Flyleaf Books in Chapel Hill, and she serves on the board of the North Carolina Poetry Society. Birthing Age from Finishing Line Press is her first book of poetry. Thank you for welcoming her here tonight.
Welcome, Joan.
Thank you. I'm very happy to be here, and thank you, Ashley. Early March. How I love daffodils, so brave, bright, reckless, bent by February storms, trusting March to stand them up again. I have kept my childish faith in spring. Daffodils by the roadside, cold rains that smash, kind days that tip the tender faces up, and hidden underground, the secret store of next year's daffodils. The next poem begins with an epigraph by David White. This is the tower of my adult aloneness. Home. I know my way there in dark, in fog and rain and early light. The broad greenhouse is hidden in this winter's woods. I look out upon the sloping land, the distant road. High above the fireplace, a painting hangs, a single longleaf pine, extravagant and endangered. The narrow years are over. This glass door opens upon my bright domain, a house for long dreams, the tower of my remaining days. I am no longer wanting for direction or rest or peace. This brightness shall shroud my living and shelter my last sleep. I walk from room to room. I ring the doorbell. And I'm the one who's home. Now I swear that I did not write this next poem and the last that I'll read for today's meeting. Sally Green heard me read it in December at an open mic, and she said, read it before the meeting. Orange County. Roads I travel, path away through joy. Field and forest, farmhouse, hilly slope. Early snow on fallow fields, and deep down in my woods, limbs every line. Philadelphia streets of the first half of my life run in my head. Row houses, dirty slush, fear at night. Happy to return, happier to leave. When I was a child, I believed that my birth in a big city was a mistake. On drives in Bucks County and at camp, I was undone by certainty of place. I will live my given days in Orange County, joy abundant, limning every line. Thank you very much.
Before we get to public comment, I'd just like to make a statement about the tragedy in New Zealand over this weekend. So we have a Emmanuel African Methodist Episcopal Church. We have the Tree of Life or La Simcha congregation. And now we have Church Life Islamic Center and Mosque. The common link is the loss of innocent lives stolen by a vile hatred. I was thinking about what I was going to write about this, and I've been reading so much this past weekend that I read these two lines, and I thought that I'd like to say them here. I did not write them. They were written by Lean Dweek and Rose Asif. A fight against anti-Muslim bigotry is the fight against anti-Semitism, is the fight against racism, is the fight against white supremacy. When someone attacks one of us, they attack all of us. We know that our struggles are intertwined, and for any of us to be safe, all of us must be safe. Toward the Muslim families in New Zealand who have lived through this horror, our hearts are with you. So if we can go to public comment now. This is for matters that are not on the printed agenda, and I have one person that would like to speak. If anyone else would like to speak, please sign up in the back. There will be an opportunity to speak about matters that are on the agenda, and we'll have a sign-up sheet in the back, and David Hunt can help you with that. So Myra Dotson is our speaker, and Ms. Dotson, you have 3 minutes.
Okay, my name is Myra Dotson. I'm here tonight to continue my presentation from last month regarding climate change and greenhouse gases being emitted from concentrated toxic sewage sludge that is dumped on farmland in our county. I am president and founder of 2 nonprofit environmental groups, Sewage Sludge Action Network and North American Alliance for Clean Land. Both groups are dedicated to the elimination of dumping toxic waste on land and promoting alternative methods of toxic waste disposal. As I mentioned last month, Orange County is the fifth most sludge county in the state out of 100 counties. Number 5, when sludge is dumped, gases are continually emitted from the land indefinitely. Different gases are emitted at different times and under various conditions. Sewage sludge plays a vital role in contributing to greenhouse gases emitted into our atmosphere. OWASA dumps millions of gallons of toxic sludge each year in Orange, Chatham, and Alamance. The very first gas that comes off is deadly toxic mercury gas. Other gases that are continually emitted are hydrogen sulfide, carbon dioxide, nitrous oxide, carbon disulfide, dimethyl disulfide, just plain dimethyl sulfide, methyl mercaptan, and volatile sulfide compounds. All of these are considered greenhouse gases, and they are emitted constantly from sewage sludge, no matter how old the sludge disposal has been. If Orange County wants to play an important and conscientious role in halting or slowing climate change, it should start with taking the lead in investigating alternative methods of sewage sludge disposal, such as pyrolysis or plasma arc gasification. Other countries and other areas in the U.S. have already done this and have facilities in place and working. It makes sense that a forward-thinking community, such as Orange County, should follow suit. Thank you. I
Thank you,
have
Ms. Dodson.
handouts.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak on matters that are not on the printed agenda? Okay, we can move on. We're going to do announcements, petitions, and comments by board members. 3-minute limit per commissioner, please, and we'll start down with Commissioner McKee.
I have no petitions tonight, just would ask that everyone keep our neighbors in the Midwest in mind. Homes, businesses, and farms are underwater, and their losses are going to be huge when it's over with.
Thank you. Commissioner Green?
That actually, Commissioner McKee, was a good segue to the brief comments I'm going to make after having come back from the Climate Reality Project in Atlanta, where was really the proverbial water out of a fire hose. I'm still in the process of trying to digest all of the wonderful things that we learned there, and that's the first step toward translating them to to our benefit. But just as I was learning about cyclone bombs and how they are caused by excess moisture being in the atmosphere due to global warming, then the water doesn't know where else to go except it just comes down like that, which is exactly one of the things that happened in the Midwest. There is certainly no doubt in my mind that the scientists are right to say that these are results of global warming that have been accentuated by human acts. And so that, of course, is the bad news, but the good news from the conference is that there seem to be ways to change. And I'm encouraged by the youth movement. We were there on the day that was the Striking Fridays, where so the youth were encouraging us to to pay attention to them. I also was, I've probably never been prouder to be a North Carolinian than I was at this conference, because the whole theme of it was environmental racial justice, and the star for that theme was our own Reverend William Barber. And to see Al Gore interview Reverend Barber with all the love and respect that the two of them have for each other was just pretty amazing. And there was a truly ecumenical service at Ebenezer Baptist Church on Thursday night, I believe it was, and it was so moving. And then to come home to our hotels and find the news about New Zealand was the contrast was very shocking. But the big thing that I came away with is all of these things are interrelated, and we have to work on them all at once. But climate change is an emergency, and we've got to get with the program. And I look forward to more conversations.
Commissioner Price?
Yeah, several things. Well, somewhat related. Last time we talked about getting rid of the single-use plastics such as the straws, and I would just like to encourage that we continue to do even more. There was a report on the news even today, and it's nothing new, but it just reinforces something that we should be taking into consideration, and that is that the markets for our recyclables is dwindling. And we should be looking more to reducing our waste or reusing it as opposed to just recycling, because if there are no markets, we will just be accumulating, basically trash. It'll become trash if we don't do something with it. So just if we could think further on our sustainability. I attended the Durham Chapel Hill Carvel MPO meeting, and we had a presentation by Secretary Trogdon, and he gave us stats on the growth, particularly in the Triangle, and together, he made a point that the Triangle is part of the region that will see some of the greatest population growth in the next 10, 20 years. And I think there was pretty much consensus about working together on multimodal transportation, and he did there was a lot of talk about bicycle paths and pedestrian ways and, what we can do in addition to building roads for vehicles. And he did mention the light rail, that it has been a priority, yet he had no comments regarding our current situation. As for, this is just a request from a constituent, so I'm just passing on for our planning staff. As we proceed with some of the updates to the comprehensive plan, if we could take a look at our noise and nuisance ordinance, continue to get questions about that. And the last thing that I would, and we do have something on our consent agenda, but I didn't want to pull it from the consent agenda regarding foster care. And I would just ask staff that at some point, if we could take a look again at what our situation is, what the status is of our children here in Orange County, because we're seeing an increase in monies that need to be allocated towards that. And so obviously there's a bigger need. And I would just point out that I think, as most people know by now, Bob Nutter passed away at age 90, and he had done so much for the sustainability of the rural Orange and Mapleview Farm, with his Mapleview Farm. And I think everyone in our county is important, but just to note what he had done to strengthen Orange County. That's it.
Commissioner Bedford?
Nothing tonight, thank you. Except happy birthday, Mark.
Commissioner Markopoulos, the birthday
Well,
boy.
Thank you. I have nothing tonight either.
Oh, okay. Commissioner Dorson.
Yeah, so a couple of things. One is, at our retreat, we talked about revisiting the Eno EDD, and we were, at that time, there was some deadlines coming up where there was going to be some actions taken, and as I recall, we wanted to revisit that before any additional resources were expended. And I don't know that so maybe we could get an update on what's happening with that, or maybe there's something in the queue already, but there was some pretty intense discussions about reconsidering efforts in that EDD, and I know that at the same time there were some things scheduled to be happening this spring regarding that EDD, and so I would like to get an update. I don't know, Bonnie, if you have that right now?
I can do that right now. Right now, what we're doing is we're developing criteria to evaluate each one of the EDDs. So we're not moving forward on the Eno EDD because we're anticipating that when we bring that forward, it may not meet the criteria that we're looking at. So we have paused, a hard pause on the Eno EDD, and we won't do anything until we've come forward to the board with more information on all the EDDs, which will be included.
Right. And then the other, just two other just reports, and I have notes to email around to the board, but I'll just say, I guess it was in the last week or so, I attended the Justice Advisory Council meeting with Commissioner Green. She chaired that meeting ably. We got some interesting information about the Chapel Hill Police Crisis Unit Department, and I'll send these notes around. We also got information about a new pre-sentencing investigation pilot program that Judge Bador gave us some information about. So this would be a program that looks at, rather than looking at pre-trials, focused on sentencing and looking at how those can be potentially reduced. And this would be for adult defendants. We also got some information about the district attorney's driver's license restoration program. So that was a good meeting. There's a lot happening there. And then also last week I attended the Healthy Carolinians meeting, of which I am the representative. And so that you may know that one of the things that they do is a community health assessment survey, and that is coming up. That survey, we actually will go out door to door and in targeted census tracts across the county with this detailed health survey, and that is going to be conducted, I think, in late April and early May are the target dates for doing that actual survey, and there'll be a need for volunteers, and I'll have that information for you. We just finalized the survey and what it's going to look like, and there's a lot of great work being done, and we'll have this survey will take place, like I said, later this spring, and then we'll be able to use that. The health department will be able to use that to focus on, targeted communities, priorities, and needed resources.
Thank you. I have two things. One is economic development. I guess it was almost a year ago, we did, we partnered with WCHL, and we had a day-long sort of, I forgot, what did we call that?
Another summit?
Yeah, it was kind of a summit, right? So WCHL asked if we were going to be doing that again this year, and if it would be economic development. And so I did not know if that was the plan. But if we do, I think it is important to focus on economic development, so I wouldn't mind using that as a topic again if the board agrees with that. But also it'd be nice to go back and review the summit from last year and see what we've achieved since that summit. Because I don't want to just get up there and talk again about what we need and what we don't need, and didn't find out what we've done over the years. So maybe a report on the summit that we had and what we achieved since that summit would be good. And then we can start talking about if we want to do that again. WCHL said they got really good reviews on that, so they were happy to host us again there. And I think we all enjoyed doing it. So just put that in your minds. I also, for climate change, I did want to just thank the youth movement, and thank you for bringing that up, Sally. We do have some youth movement going on here as well, and I just want to thank them, because they're the generation right now that seems to be really active with this. So I'm glad that you raised that, and I want to thank the folks here that are doing that as well. Okay, so that is 3. We said we were going to move 4A to another meeting.
Can I
Yes.
ask one clarification?
Sure.
For Commissioner Price. You said something about nuisance and noise ordinance. That's police power ordinance rather than land use, so can you clarify what you're looking for, and I can provide that to the board?
It's the same thing. I got, last week, I had phone calls and emails about gunshots and firing ranges, and,
Okay.
I explained that, our limitations, but, as we're looking into a new comprehensive, updates on the comprehensive plan, if there's any definition of nuisance that.
Okay, I can provide something to follow up on that.
I'm just a messenger.
I also think Michael Harvey sent us the ordinance via email.
He did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So you can share that.
Well, they have it.
Okay, we're going to, all right, we are going to move to 11A, and that's the Animal Service Advisory Board appointments. And Bob, you're here to give a presentation or just talk to us a little bit? What would you like to do, sir?
I can just introduce the item if you'd like.
Sure,
Chair
that'd be
Rich.
great.
And good evening, Commissioners and Chair. I'm Bob Morato, the Director of Orange County Animal Services. There currently are 2 vacancies on the Animal Services Advisory Board. One of them is for an at-large position that would be filled by a person who is not from a municipality, and the other is for someone who is an animal welfare person or an animal advocate. The Animal Services Advisory Board has itself met with a number of people, and on the basis of their conversations, they're recommending to you Casey Farrell for the at-large position. I've described some of Mr. Farrell's background, some of his previous work with animal services, as well as his professional pursuits and how they intersect with animal services. And for the animal welfare, animal advocate position, the Animal Services Advisory Board is recommending Lucia Wellborn, and she's had a long history of advocacy for animal companions. She's volunteered with a number of different animal organizations here and beyond North Carolina, and she also happens to have a master's degree in public health. So.
Great, thank you, Bob. So I will take a motion for those folks.
Move or nominate Casey Farrell for position 6 and Lucia Wellborn for position 9.
Second.
Okay, Brad Price and Bedford, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Against? Okay, that is passing. Okay, and then 11B, please. Bob, you want to go ahead and give us a quick
Be glad to do that.
explanation of this?
ma'am.
Yeah.
So there are 4 individuals who have previously served on the Animal Services Hearing Panel Pool, and they are available to be reappointed and interested in serving again. They are Dr. Lori Smith, Bonnie Hauser, Jean Austin, and Amanda Schwarke. Ms. Schwarke, I would note, is also a member of the Animal Services Advisory Board, and as such, she is one of the 3 members of the pool who has responsibility for convening and chairing the appeal hearings that are held. And then in addition, there are a number of vacancies, and I believe there are 2 candidates in addition to the people who are up for reappointment.
Okay. So let's do the position 3, 9, 12, and 18 first, if that's okay.
Chair.
Yes, sir.
Like to nominate Dr. Lori Smith, position number 3, Ms. Bonnie Hauser, position number 9, Ms. Jean Austin, position number 12, and Amanda Schwarke, position number 18.
Second.
Okay, but seconded by Price. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Against? Okay, so that passes. Now we have 4 more positions that we can fill.
Captain?
Commissioner Dorson, yes, sir.
I will nominate Alan Pollock for position number 11, and I would nominate Meggie Romick for position number 8, which I know is designated as public safety field, but the position's been open for almost a year, so I believe under our policies, we can fill that position with any candidate we want.
Make a friendly amendment on
Sure.
that?
Commissioner Markup.
So Alan Pollock has, he's a certified search and rescue dog handler. I wonder if you're switching him to the,
Yeah, that doesn't matter to me.
might be, and he lives on Hound Lane.
Okay, so what position would you like Alan Pollock to be?
The public safety.
So he will go to
He has
8,
Some
and
experience with that.
then Commissioner Dorson, can we move the other person to
Yes.
to 6? And what was the other person's name?
Meggie Romick.
Maggie Romick, okay.
Second.
Okay, so we'll vote on those 2 first. We have a position 6 for Maggie Romick, number 8 for Alan Pollock. All those in favor say
I
aye.
didn't get that right. 8 and 11.
Oh, Commissioner Dorson said 6.
Yeah, no, it was 8 and 11 is
8
what
and
I
11.
meant, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Okay, 8 and 11. All those in favor say aye.
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 Against? Okay, so that passes. So now we have 6 and 15.
But we don't have any other applicants.
There is no one left, so
We will
does that give us a
redouble.
good,
That's
good start? Yeah.
It's an excellent start. Thank you very much. We'll redouble our effort to recruit for the remaining vacancies.
Great, thank you so much, Bob.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Okay, we have 3 public hearings tonight. The first one is NCDOT, Public Transportation Division, Public Transportation, 5307, Program Grant Application for 2020. The board will conduct a public hearing to receive public comments on the 5307 program. It's operating planning, capital funding, Durham, Chapel Hill, Carver urbanized area allocation, large urban and Burlington area small urbanized governors, appointments to the small urban grant application by Orange County Public Transit, OPT, for FY 2020, and consider voting to approve the FY 2020 grant applications and authorize the chair to sign. And Mr. Letman, how are you? Sorry
doing
about that
well.
long introduction.
And good evening, Chair Rich and fellow commissioners. Theo Letman, Orange County Public Transportation. This is a public hearing for our 5307 Urbanized Area Grant application. It is a replacement hearing from the September 20th hearing. When we submitted our application back in September. NCDOT reviewed our application and found that we had one thing missing, and that was a public notice in the local newspaper. And so we have to do a replacement hearing. In between that time, we've also has come to light, there are several documents that had to be redone because a previous board chair and a previous board had approved that. So we have some documents to be re-signed.
Okay.
The 5307 Urbanized Area Grant Funds, this is the first time that we are applying for these funds. They are from prior fiscal year allocations in the large urbanized area, which is the Durham, Chapel Hill, Carver urbanized area, and small urban, which is the Burlington, Graham urbanized area. The amount of the combination of both those urbanized area funds totals out to be $1,069,154 with a local match of $534,577. These funds can be matched utilizing tax district dollars that are carryover funds from prior years that have not been used. The 5307 projects and activities that these funds will cover will be in support of the Hillsborough Circulator, other flexible routes that we are proposing. We've discussed at the board retreat, as well as our long-range transit plan report that we submitted. We're talking about mobility on demand routes. Also, we'll pay for additional drivers, as well as an operations manager. We currently have a maintenance technician that will also cover in the asset management department. Also will cover a sundry of various transit accessories such as mobile ticketing apparatus, as well as bus stop amenities. We have a semi-seat project that's ongoing, and these funds would help pay for the completion of that project. Any questions?
Okay, questions? Yes, Mark.
Just out of curiosity, what's a semi-seat? Semi-seat is it's a new bus stop design where it's two seats that fold out, and we have our bus stop signage as well as our schedule posted on it. So it's more than just a pole with a sign on it. It provides seating for patrons that are waiting for our bus. Thanks.
Commissioner Price?
Yeah, just one question. With the staff positions, how will they be sustained in future years?
We get allocations. We have been getting allocations. We just haven't applied for those funds. So these positions are well within the funding sources that are available for us, 5307.
So you could reapply or?
Yes, they
Okay.
will be continuous.
Okay.
Okay, so I need motion to open up the public hearing.
So moved.
Commissioner Dorson, Commissioner Price second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, is there anyone that would like to speak on this item?
No one at this point has signed up for this item.
Okay, great. Any additional questions? So I need a motion to close the public hearing.
Move that we close the public hearing?
Mickey and Dorson, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, against? Great. So Now we are going to, could we do this, all three of them together?
Yes.
Mr. Attorney, thank you. So we're going to, 3, 4, and 5, we're going to approve the small loan and large urban 5037 grant application FY 2020 in the total amount of $1,069,154 with local match total of $534,577 to be provided when necessary. Approve and authorize the chair to sign the 5307 small and large urban plan resolution, and authorize the chair and the county attorney to review and sign the annual certifications and assurance documents when they are published and become available from the FTA. Okay, need motion for that?
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Price, second by Commissioner Dorson, Commissioner Markopoulos. All those in favor?
Wait, I have a question.
Yeah, I'm
I just
sorry.
want to be clear, when it says FY 2020, does that mean starting in July of 2019, or does it mean starting in July 2020? 'Cause the
2019, the
Okay.
fiscal year.
So it'll be starting this summer.
Yes, sir.
Good question. Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Against? Okay, and that passes. Thank you. I'm actually glad to see the fee card reader system in there. That was one of those little glitches that we had where we couldn't get funding because we weren't counting how many people were riding. So I'm glad that we're putting that on there. Thank you. Okay, so we're going to go to 5B, North Carolina Community Transportation Program Administrative and Capital Grant Application for FY 2020, and we'll assume that that's 1920 as well, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So we don't have to ask that again. The board will conduct a public hearing to receive public comment on the North Carolina Community Transportation Program, the CTP grant application by Orange County Public Transit, OPT, for FY 1920. Consider approving the FY 1920 CTP program application and authorize the chair to enter into agreement with the North Carolina Department of Transportation, NCDOT. Mr. Letman.
Back again.
It's like you never left.
This is our 5311 administrative and capital grant for our rural programs. This is also a replacement hearing because both hearings last time were conducted on the same evening, so we're conducting a replacement hearing. These funds are used to support the administrative and capital projects that we have in the rural areas. They cover admin salaries such as the transit director, dispatchers, supervisors, and at different percentages. The total that was allocated to us is $175,506 with a local match of $26,326. There are no capital funds for this upcoming fiscal year. However, we've been told by NCDOT that in the coming years, we will be able to get capital funds for rural vehicles under a different program, the 5339 program. So they're changing the way that they're doing business as well.
That's great. Questions for Theo? Okay. Could I get a motion to open up the public hearing, please?
So moved.
Okay, we have Dorson and McKee. All those in favor?
That was
say aye.
Markopoulos.
Markopoulos, sorry. Thank you.
You can just alternate.
I'm just not looking that way, so I don't know who's saying it.
He's a bass, I'm a baritone. You got to
Okay,
listen
got it.
for the pitch.
Got it, okay. Markopoulos and McKee, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, against? Great. And do we have anyone to speak on this?
No one has signed up.
We do not. Okay, any other questions for Theo?
I have a question. So this grant, you weren't allowed to apply for any capital funding? Is
For
that?
this year, there was no capital funds allocated for us for this year.
And you're saying that there's not going to be any capital funds in this grant, but there's potentially going to be some in other grants like the one we just voted on?
Yes, there's a capital grant program that their NCDOT is going to start utilizing for all its replacement vehicles, and that's the 5339 program. Under 5311 is very restrictive in terms of how you utilize the equipment. Under 5339, you don't have those restrictions, so it's actually a better option for us.
Okay, I need a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
So we have Price and Green. All those in favor say aye.
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 Against? They're playing with me down there now. Okay, can we do 3, 4, and 5 again, all at
Yes.
once? Okay. So here's what we are going to do. We are going to approve the Community Transportation Program grant application for 1920 in the total amount of $175,506 with a local match of $26,326 to be provided when necessary. Approve and authorize the chair to sign the Community Transportation Program resolution authorizing the applicant to enter into an agreement with the North Carolina Department of Transportation and the local share certification for funding form, and authorize the chair and the county attorney to review and sign the 2014 certifications and assurance documents, 2018 version provided. Okay, that's it. We have the old version in there if you want to take a look at that. Okay, so I need a motion.
So move.
Commissioner Price,
Second.
second by Commissioner Green. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Against? Okay, thank you. That passes. Thank you, Lee.
Thank you.
We appreciate your time. You guys are playing with me. Okay, get you back.
We're not messing with you.
Back's
We're
not gonna
making,
be
we're
nice.
just, we're trying to make it easier for you by using different tones.
Okay, let's move to 5C, public hearing on the finance of various capital investment projects. And this is, the board will conduct a public hearing on the issuance of approximately $25,985,000 to finance capital investment projects and equipment for the fiscal year, and consider approving a related resolution supporting the county's application to the Local Government Commission for the approval of the finance arrangement. And this is Gary Donaldson and Bob Jessup. Welcome, Gary.
Good evening, Madam Chair and Commissioners. So this is our spring financing, a public hearing, and what you have before you on the abstract are 3 attachments. The first 2 attachments were drafted by our bond counsel. It is the public hearing advertisement and also the preliminary resolution. The third, which I direct your attention to, attachment is the PowerPoint, which just gives an overview of the spring financing. So the purpose of the public hearing is to seek your approval pursuant to the statute to proceed with an application to the Local Government Commission. The advertisement was in the amount of $25.9 million. I will note that when we put together this financing package several months ago, the amount now has been downsized to about $15 million. There simply are not projects that will not be ready to proceed at this time. So the plan will be, once those bids come in, we will then shift them to, as you know, we plan to do the fall financing with the Northern Campus, and we'll add those projects to that financing. So the terms of this financing is it's a collateral security. It's secured by the Meadowlands Emergency Operations. The maturity terms will be from 5 to 20 years, and they'll match the useful life of the assets, which includes vehicles and equipment on the short end and up to infrastructure requirement needs. We expect the estimated interest rate to be between 3 to 4%. The repayment for the project will be property taxes, Article 46 for the utility projects, and solid waste program fees for the vehicle and equipment in the solid waste fund. This is a subordinate lien to our general obligation bonds. What that means is that we are expecting a rating of AA+ from the rating agencies. This, again, is the list of the projects. The projects that are coming off of this financing, the big ones are the Southern Campus, Seymour Center, and Southern Human Services are among the projects that will be coming off. In addition, there are some reductions, for instance, on school facility improvements. That amount is being reduced from 3.8 to 2.6 million, and also the Link Center remediation will be coming off, and we'll plan to issue that in the fall. So the
repeat-
financing.
Could you
Yes,
repeat
ma'am.
those three again? Seymour,
The,
Southern, and,
Right, the Southern Campus expansion, Seymour Center, and Southern Humans Services expansion. So the calendar, again, tonight you would be approving action for to support of the LGC application, and then we would come back to you for the final pricing resolution on May 2nd. And we expect to close at the end of May. That ends. I don't know if you have any questions.
Questions? Bob, do you have anything to add to that? No. Go ahead, Commissioner Dorsey.
Well, I can wait if,
And if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself, because we have two
Of
new
course.
commissioners. Yes.
Well,
I
who
know
have
you.
seen me in other contexts. My name is Bob Jessup. I'm a lawyer with a firm called Sanford Holzhauser. Our office is in Carrboro, and it's been my great pleasure to work as bond counsel for the county for these many years. Mr. Donaldson did an excellent job of presenting the resolution, describing why we need it, and talk to you about the projects. I'd be happy to answer any questions, but otherwise, we're looking for the board to conduct a public hearing, and then a motion to approve the resolution as introduced would be what would be in order.
Okay. Thank you. Commissioner Dorson.
yeah, I was just going to ask if maybe for just, for folks who are watching at home and also for just our general knowledge, if you can, so we're about to start the budget process. We're going to approve a capital investment plan as part of that budget. These projects, these are all part of the past capital investment plan, is that right?
Yes, sir. That you approved this previously prior fiscal year.
And then the projects that you said we're taking off and we're going to be part of a subsequent, because I was going to ask where the northern campus is, and you're saying that's going to be part of we're going to get another one of these in the fall where we're going to do that again?
Yes, sir. Our plan is, once we get the GMP, to come before you in the fall, the first meeting after Labor Day, to present that financing plan and resolution, and we plan to present that to the LGC in their October meeting.
So there actually be two separate
Yes, there will be two separate
plans that get
we
approved and get sent to the LGC. This one being one, and then something in the fall that will maybe include some of these projects we've taken off.
will include some of those we've taken off. Yes, sir.
And just to refresh my recollection, as us lawyer types like to say, the Link Center remediation and the Government Services Annex remediation, is that something that's emerged more recently, or was that part of our original capital improvement? I mean, I know we've discovered new issues with that require remediation.
Yeah, those are the exceptions that we had budget amendments because those emerged as issues that we needed to take care of, the water intrusion.
Thanks.
Yes.
Commissioner Price?
well, I had this question, it may, your answer may change based on the fact that we've taken these three off, but for now. But how does this request for financing figure in with the next, our 2020 budget? And look, I'm trying to figure out the big picture forecast or scenario when we combine, think about this debt service in addition to what's coming forward, which, will need a tax increase, and then the revaluation. I mean, isn't all this going to kind of come together?
Yeah, so we have a debt model that we utilize, and it goes out actually 20 years. And so based on that, the metrics, as you know, one of our metrics is a 15% debt service to revenue. So that is taken into consideration when we are preparing the CIP and updating the CIP and our financing package. And that is information we share with the LGC and also the rating agencies, and they're very comfortable with respect to our metrics and appreciate the fact that we actually have a forward-looking plan.
Okay.
So before we open the public hearing, we are not approving a $25.9 million number tonight, correct?
That's correct. It is a not to exceed. So when we come back on May 2nd, you will have the refined, the downsized amount, which is roughly about $15.9 million.
Okay, so that'll come back to us in May?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. Additional questions before we open the public hearing? Okay, I need a motion to open the public hearing, please.
So moved.
Second.
Commissioner McKee, Commissioner Price, all those in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Against? Okay. Do we have anyone that would like to speak about this? We do not. Okay, any additional questions? So we need a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Commissioner Dorson and
One of us down here.
who grabbed the second on this?
Mickey.
Yes, I did.
Commissioner McKee. Okay.
You know, Donna can figure that out. You don't have to call it out if you don't want to, if you're worried about.
Yeah, you know, it's fun to call names out. It's challenging, though.
Yeah.
It's like a constant tongue twister. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Against? Okay. So now the manager's recommendation recommends that the board conduct a public hearing. We did, and now we're going to adopt the resolution supporting the application to the Local Government Commission for approval of the financing. Moved by Commissioner Green,
Second.
by Commissioner Dorson. All those in favor?
Aye.
Against? Okay, you've got it. Thank you so much. We appreciate your help on that. We're going to move to 6A now, and this is approval of financial assistance awards to the Community Home Trust for the landings at Winmore Apartment Complex. The board will consider voting to approve $60,000 financial assistance award to the Community Home Trust for the landings at Winmore and authorize the county manager to sign. And welcome, Ms. Hampton.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Commissioners. It's always a pleasure to be with you. We have before us the request for $60,000 in financial assistance to Community Home Trust as it relates to the landings at Winmore, which is a 58-unit affordable housing complex. Mr. Robert Dowling, the Executive Director and President, is with us this evening. I also just wanted to share, you have the abstract before you. I did want to share that the program income we receive from this property is placed right back into use for our home program. You see the background, this project was originally funded. We were just one of many funders in the development or creation of this property. We provided, the county provided a $300,000 loan for the development of the entire project, and that took place in 2011. And you have all of the background information there, along with the capital structure of the other funders that are involved and their maturity dates for those loans, some of which are forgiven after their term has been completed. When they took over this property, it was a challenged property at that time, and those challenges carried forward into 2018 until currently. CHT hired new property managers to come in and use the property, not use it, but manage the property, and they have been trying to, as I like to say, build an airplane while flying it, trying to correct the challenges that they have with keeping the property afloat. There has been some tremendous needs as it relates to deferred maintenance that was not done by the previous owner. So I'll stop here. You have all of the information before you, as well as information on a request that went to the town of Carrboro, where they did fund $30,000. The initial range that we received was between $70,000 and $120,000, with the $30,000 and $60,000, if you approve it, that will get CHT to $90,000, not all the way to $120,000, but $90,000 of their ask in that range. So I'll stop now and see if you have any questions.
Questions for Cheryl? Okay, Robert, would you like to add anything to that?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm Robert Dowling with Community Home Trust. And I came before you in the fall of 2017, as you may recall, and told you I didn't think we would need any help with this property. But I said if we did need help, I would come back and ask. And I really didn't think we would have to come back, but I was wrong. And we do have to come back and ask. And there's Cheryl has done a good job of outlining the problems. And I want to thank Cheryl for the support she's given us, and Bonnie as well. This has been more of a challenge than we knew. It was a challenge. It was a property in decline. It was going downhill. It was losing money. It was poorly managed. We knew all those things, but it was worse than we knew. And personally, I think my theory is that once the management company, the prime management company, knew that they were not going to be hired by us, that they basically threw up their hands and said, you know, this property is no longer being managed by anybody, because it seemed to really go downhill rapidly right at the end of 2017. I don't know that for sure, though. But we are where we are, and the reserves were depleted when there were two sets of reserves, operating reserves and replacement reserves. The operating reserves required levels 188,000. When we took it, they were only at 82 because of the losses. Every time you lose money, you have to take money out of operating reserves. And the capital replacement reserves were inadequate anyway, and they're today at $78,000. And the operating reserves are at $50,000. We're still in the midst of doing projections. We've been doing permanent affordability for a long time. We look out 20 years. We're trying to get our arms around this property, looking at 20-year projections. We're not completed yet. We're going to lose money this fiscal year. This is 2019, ends in June. I'm hoping we can stabilize in the next fiscal year, 2020. But we're not going to be able to put money into the reserves like we need to. We're just not going to be able to, we're not going to have those replacement reserves or operating reserves needed to support 58 units, hence the need for the injection of capital. Carborough's approved 30. We're asking you for 60. If you'll approve that, we'll be at 90,000. Unfortunately, I hate to say this, but that's not enough. We're going back to Carborough to ask for 20,000 more next week. And I'm trying to raise money from the private sector, banks and foundations. I will not come back to you this year. Commissioner McKee said, be sure if you need money, you don't come back to us this year, come back next year. I said, that's how we'll do it. I'll stop there and answer any questions you have.
Questions for Robert? Okay.
Madam Chair, I do have a comment. I think the worst thing that we could do would be to allow this this complex to operate on a razor's edge. And if things go badly, it'll burn right through the reserves, and then it'll be right over the edge again. From what I understand in talking with Robert and some of the folks that are intimately involved with this, it is making a turnaround. But if we don't invest in this, we can probably expect this project to continue to deteriorate at an ever-increasing rate, and which would be counter to what we're pushing for, to try to expand the amount of affordable housing. And so, you know, having heard some conversation in the meetings, Community Home Trust meetings, and then talking with Robert, I heartily endorse this. And what Robert didn't say was, I said, ask for enough. Don't ask for not enough and then come back.
Commissioner Dorson?
Yeah, I'd like to just make a comment. So I was the county's representative on the Home Trust Board when they were debating whether or not to do this project, to take this on. It was a matter of real concern, and it was a real challenge for the board, that board. It represented a change in the way they had done things to sort of take on rental housing. The board really engaged in a thoughtful, deliberative process. very reflective, very self-critical, very candid about the challenges. There was a lot of desire to do it, but there was a lot of caution based on some of the things that Robert just described. And ultimately, the board chose to move forward with this in part because it reflected the priorities that this board had set for affordable housing in our community. That is, we wanted to target rental housing, and we wanted to target rental housing targeted at harder to serve, lower AMI targeted populations. And so, the representative, I endorsed it. I think they did all the due diligence, and I think, as Commissioner McKee said, this is really a critical project for affordable housing in Orange County. And I would actually suggest not only that we approve the 60,000, but given that there's still a gap and it's a relatively small amount, I would propose giving more. If we give 60 and there's 30 from Carrboro, you're ending up still with a shortfall of how much? $30,000?
My board has directed me, since Commissioner McKee has said this, to raise $138,000. That's the board's directive. This will be 90. So that'll leave us 48,000. But I'm out there looking for other money.
Right, and you're going to ask Carrboro for 20 more.
Yes.
So that'll be 128,000.
I'm not asking you for any more money right now.
I know you're not asking for it, but I'm feeling very magnanimous, and I think this project I think this is a relatively small amount of money for what this project brings to the county. And candidly, I appreciate your presentation, Robert, but I think you've actually soft-pedaled the danger that this community was in, and the real danger that the former owners and managers left that in, that's the danger to the community, in that we could have lost this affordable housing, but it's also what it represented for the 58 residents, or the residents of these 58 units. I mean, what we know is that from our manufactured housing struggles, that if these opportunities go away, there's not somewhere else for these folks to go. We don't have 58 units of housing available for people at this level of income. And so, I mean, if you can raise the money privately, that's great. You can give it back to us. But I would be in favor of us putting in another 20,000. I'd take it up to 80. And that may incentivize Carrboro to do that too. But I think that this represents exactly what this board has been calling on providers to do and to bring and to support in the community. And I think we ought to acknowledge that with our support.
Commissioner Price?
First, I'd like to actually thank you for taking this project on. I mean, it was a risk. And my question actually goes along with what the other two commissioners have been talking about. How much more were you thinking that, in coming back next year, how much were you going to, or do you intend to ask us to provide?
I honestly don't know yet, Commissioner Price. We're really trying to do valid 20-year projections, which is not easy. There's so many variables to look at. But we're endeavoring to produce a 20-year projection that is something we can stand behind and say, this is a reasonable case, what we think will happen, and what will be needed, what will the shortfalls be, and when will they be? And we haven't completed that yet.
So the 60,000 that you're asking for now will provide, assure that
with the 60 plus the 30, we're in good shape for a year, excuse me.
So all of the units will be habitable with no problem?
Oh, absolutely. All the units are habitable today.
Today. But I mean, like next year, you're not waiting for something to break down?
No. We're not. We still have 50,000 in operating reserves. That's $50,000. That's real money. It's not a lot for 58 units, but it's $50,000, plus $78,000 in capital replacement reserves. Capital replacement reserves replace HVAC systems, refrigerators, hot water heaters, the roof, all that stuff. $78,000 doesn't go very far for 4 buildings and 58 units.
Right. So that's what I was wondering. I know you've got, all but 2 units occupied now or rented now. So they're safe. I understand that, but for example, next year at this time, will you need to do replacements? Are you?
We'll be doing
looking-
replacements in the course of, it's because it's a 9-year-old property that's not been well-maintained. We're into the cycle of starting to replace some things. That will accelerate in the next 5 to 10 years as all the HVAC systems and hot water heaters have to be replaced, and you have to replace the roof. The roof should be out after that. So that's why we're looking at and realizing the $138,000 that my board directed me. They said, Robert, get the operating reserves back to the 188 level. And so that was my directive. But I'm trying to really look at this intelligently so that, to be quite frank, so that my successor doesn't get left with a problem next January.
Correct, and what I'm thinking is that I don't want to see people having to move out because the funds aren't there to get.
That will not happen. That will not happen.
You should ask for
Commissioner
more
McKee?
money.
Oh, sorry, Commissioner McKee?
Yes, Commissioner Dorsey, thank you for making that suggestion, because that is where I was going in the board meeting, that we need to make sure that this aligns with what we've said for years that we were going to focus on. So I appreciate the figure you mentioned is exactly what I'm thinking. I think that it is very likely that the additional funding will come through with Carborough. And if we add another 20,000 to it, it'll put this in in good shape. I think Mr. Dowling mentioned that the 60 will put them okay or good. But I'm concerned that we not shortchange essentially being, penny wise and pound foolish. So when time comes, I would hope that myself or someone would add the additional 20 to the 60.
We can have public comment?
I'm sorry?
Oh, it sounds like we're into discussion. Shouldn't we be having public comment, if there is any first?
A public comment?
Yeah.
There's
No.
no one signed up.
Oh, okay, all right, okay.
Yeah.
That's why I wasn't speaking.
No, but.
Okay.
no, please.
So, yeah, no, I'm in wholehearted agreement with all that's been said. I was on representative from the town of Chapel Hill when the Home Trust, we as a board, then this was before the landings, expanded the mission of the Home Trust to include non-rental housing, which itself was a huge step and something that marked a real understanding of Robert's organization of how to be responsive to the needs of the community as they had evolved, which is, as has been said, we desperately need more and more housing in the low and very low income ranges, which this supports. So and now, full disclosure, I am on the board as well, but as a community member, so I too have been privy to these conversations and seen the back and forth and appreciated the real need. And so I thank Robert for bringing this to us and being very straight about it, and that's that.
Great. Additional comments? Commissioner Bedford?
So is there an additional $20,000 in the county's risk mitigation and housing displacement fund, or do we say or do we ask the manager to find the money? How does that work?
We can take another 20,000, but that will also almost take from our housing stabilization, our risk mitigation, and our displacement. 20,000 is there, but it will limit what we can do for individuals coming for that fund.
So maybe as we make the motion, we leave it open so that the manager can work with the finance department to best find the source for that $20,000.
Commissioner Markopoulos?
Well, I'm persuaded by everything everyone said. And one other thing that's really good about this project, in addition to being rental for low-income people, which we've made a priority, is its location close to the populated urban area. So I am in total agreement that we should add that $20,000.
Okay. Commissioner McKee?
Yes, question for the manager. Is there any reason we could not take that $20,000 from the Social Justice Fund?
We'll, I don't know what the balance is right now. We'll look at where we can find it, and we'll find the 20,000 if that's the will of the board.
Commissioner Price?
Yeah, I would just like to add on to that. I want to add the 20,000 to the request. But if it's going to take from the other programs, I would also like to see the money coming from another source within the county so that you don't lose those essential program funds.
No, I don't want to take it out of that.
Right.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is that, I'm sorry.
Down there.
Well, I was going to make a motion if it's,
Oh.
whenever it's time.
That's right. Well, that's fine. I was just, do you want to make the motion, or I was just going
Go
to
ahead. No,
repeat what I'm
please.
hearing?
Yeah.
What I'm hearing is that we want to approve the requested $60,000 plus the $20,000, and that we wanted to also ask the manager to find the $20,000 and not take it out of the housing fund that Cheryl has described. That's what I'm getting from everybody. Okay, Commissioner Dorson, please.
Yes, so I'd move that the board approve $80,000 in financial assistance for the landings at Winmore Apartment Complex as it relates to assisting and ensuring that there is adequate operating and capital reserves, and that the additional $20,000 come from a source other than the housing displacement fund.
Second.
Okay.
I would just say that you don't really need to be that specific, because a budget amendment will come back for you to approve, and you will know where the money came from. So if you just save
So I'll amend-
20,000
yeah.
extra dollars,
I'll
and then
amend
when
the
we
motion
figure out
then.
where it comes from, you'll,
I'll amend the motion to just approve $80,000 in financial assistance from the landings at Winmore as it relates to assisting and ensuring there's adequate operating and capital reserves.
Commissioner Price?
Fine.
Okay.
A question, do we need to add authorizing the manager to?
Yeah, we'll authorize the manager, and after consulting with the county attorney, to execute the necessary agreement with the Community Home Trust to include the necessary reporting requirements for periodic review of performance and ongoing improvements of the identified challenges at the landings at Winmore Apartment Complex. Additional comments? Okay, all those in favor for the 80,000, say aye.
Aye.
Against? Thank you. Thank you, Robert. Don't look pain.
I
You have this
know,
painful
be
look on your
happy.
face.
We
It's
gave
good.
you
It's a good thing.
money.
I'm very grateful. I'm very grateful to Cheryl, Bonnie, to all of you.
Thank you, Robert. Thank you for being here. Okay, we're going to do 6B is the approval of the proposed changes to the Affordable Housing Bond Program. The board will review and consider voting to approve the second phase of the proposed changes to the Orange County Affordable Housing Bond Program.
Yes, Madam
Ms.
Chair.
Hampton, yeah.
Thank you, and thank you for your vote on the other item. Before I begin my presentation, I'd like to recognize several of our advisory board and members from the Orange County Housing Authority Board. Mr. Phil Venable is here. Phil, if you'll stand and wave. And then we also have from AHAB, the Affordable Housing Advisory Board, I see Ms. Mahaley in the back. Ms. Allison Mahaley, do we have any other members here? I think I have recognized everyone, so thank you for that, Madam Chair. You all passed, the Board of County Commissioners in June of 2017 passed the bond program. The referendum went through in November of 16, and you approved several projects in June of 2017. At that time, you had asked the staff to come back with some suggestions. You had some questions and recommendations for how we can continue to make this program a very strategic and successful based on the mission that you've laid forward as it relates to affordable housing. In September of 2017, a couple of weeks after my coming on board, several changes were brought before you based on your questions of June of 2017 that year. And so you have those, and you see the criteria before you in attachment, the second attachment, or attachment B. So tonight, I feel that this is a living, breathing kind of program, and as we expand and enhance and just to ensure that the program meets the requirements that you set forth, we're bringing this second phase of proposed changes now. But before I take you to that, in attachment A or attachment 1, you will see the projects that were funded and an update on them as to what's going on, the breakout of the amounts what are the proposed area median income for that was targeted, and whether they are under construction, completed, or pending. So that was just a little update to you. Now, in the second attachment, and on
Can I
page...
just ask a question on that before you, on attachment 1, Captain?
Yes, Commissioner Dorson, please.
So the CASA projects, we know, I know they're listed as pending.
Yes, sir.
And do we know if they're going forward at this point, or they are anticipating going forward, or?
That's a great question. CASA has submitted an application. They were not funded in 2017 in the cycle for low-income housing tax credits. They have resubmitted their application revised. It is before, it's in that cycle. The tax credit cycle is broken into kind of 2 phases. Preliminary application comes in January. So in January of 19, and now they will submit the final application and requested documents in May of 2019, and then they will get word or notice of award or not come August of 2019, this year. So we will know by the end of August whether they were funded or not.
Thank you. Just wanted to get a clarification of that timeline.
So I turn your attention to page 2 of the abstract, and also attachment number 2. I think
It's not you,
okay?
it's just going in now, yeah.
Okay. So on the first, you will see the circles, items A, B, and 1, 2A, and 2B under C were approved in September. And you see what those are highlighted at the bottom. There was some clarification, some clarifying definition, and that. But for this purpose, we wanted to include or other vouchers, not just vouchers by the Housing Choice voucher, but we have several other vouchers that are used in this community, and we'd like to include that for any project sponsor who may be utilizing those vouchers. So that was the first change on page 1 of attachment B. On page 2, one of the things that we looked at is trying to take the framework that you've given us and enhance that, because we're always looking to be able to expand the use of these funds, because it's the quantity and quality of the units that we're looking for. We have heard several submission statements that came out, or those items that the board has prioritized or care a lot about, like accessibility, universal design, those kinds of things, environmental. So we wanted to make sure that whatever scoring criteria would take those into account. That question came from Commissioner Markopoulos and others at the September 2017 meeting. So for item D, we've added and site design, and we have made changes to number 2, making sure about accessibility and utilizing universal design, and making sure that folks have points for that. Coming on down to E, community design, we wanted to expand that a little bit, and we wanted to keep in mind that there are areas of the county that may be underserved, or we may target in the future. So you will see items 3, 4, and 5. We wanted to say some facilities may not be close to public transportation, but that facility may provide a means for transportation or partner with someone else. And again, needed services, healthcare, schools, or grocery shopping, just to make sure that they're accessible to these things or have access in some way. So we've kind of rearranged the layout or the categories for the scoring in E. If you will go to page 3, if I am correct. When we remove the scores for nonprofits, and our community partners. On page 1, they came before us and said it's a little unfair to have them have scores or to rate and rank them on issues around taxes or can they pay back. But I always, and the staff and I, and Ms. Diane Beecham is with us, our new community development specialist. The staff and I always think that we are working to not only have our current nonprofit service providers, but trying to stimulate private investment and private developers to come in. So we wanted to balance that. If we left those points in questions 2A and B for developers, it would give them a slightly unfair advantage to our current providers. So we added that if you are a nonprofit sponsor of a project, you would get 15 points. So any successful application can maximize out at 235, whether you are a nonprofit or you are a private developer. So we wanted to fix that imbalance based on a point system. So that's what we did there. I'm back to page 2 of the attachment. I'll stop. That is the basic criteria that was in place when I came that we have tweaked to try to enhance the program. I will now move back to page 2 of the abstract. And as we look at the other bullet points there, we wanted to make sure that we strategically use the one large pot of money that this county and its citizens have given us. And so we wanted to make sure that there was some numbers of units and not one-off, because we feel that you all have approved a number of tools in our toolbox for funding smaller projects. So if you think to strategically use these funds, we wanted to go to those projects that gave us more units. And that's 5 to 10 units or 10 plus units. So you will see we had no grant periods. So anybody getting these funds could keep them for 20 years and not use them. And we wanted to say not a one project, because if you were only getting one unit, you can come in for home funds. So we wanted to place some criteria for the size of the projects. We also included surplus property projects if we have any additional or they're used in combination. So we did that. We've done grant periods, and you will see that on page 3 as well, 2 and 3, where we go up to, depending on the size of the project, 3 years and 5 years. Extensions can be granted, which we have to bring back to the board. Or if there's any rescission of award, that would come back to the board. But we have placed some grant periods on them, and we have placed a size restriction on projects. And we wanted to implement quarterly reporting, making sure that they give us some form of progress reports so we could continually update on a regular basis the county manager as well as the board. And that also goes to the charge that you gave us in the collaborative, to be able to take a look at combining all of the affordable housing activities and seeing where we are and creating that dashboard. So these are what we bring to you this evening. Phase 2, the changes, we had held a community grantee and partners workshop in November of 2018. These changes, some of these changes were brought before them. At that time, we brought some of these changes before the coalition. It was on the agenda before the Orange County Housing Authority. So we've had input, and we're still tweaking. So we will come back to you. We want to hold a developers roundtable. We have a list. We work with our consultant to put us in touch with some regional developers who are not doing work within the county and kind of have a conversation, an interdepartmental conversation with them that would include planning and others. We're also going into the consolidated planning cycle for the next 5 years, and we'll take comments there. So as I said, we consider this a living, breathing kind of process that we will continue to come back before you to be able to improve it and enhance how we meet the goals that you've put in our path. I stop now, Madam Chair, for any questions.
Questions? Commissioner McKee?
Yes, you mentioned making those adjustments on the numbers, the points awarded to make it a level playing field between the nonprofits and the private developers, which I think is a very good idea. But have we had very much interest from the private sector?
Not to this date, we have not, but that's what we're hoping to encourage. If we want the kind of numbers that I know we need and what our needs are shown, we're going to have to continue to work with our nonprofits, partners, which are 4, predominantly 4 to 5, and then also encourage private developers to come in who do affordable housing development.
Yes, thank you very much. I think we've got to figure out some way to attract the private developers to come in. They're out there. We just got to
Yes.
figure out how to get them out there in Orange County.
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Couples?
So I'm curious, how do we verify that when these projects are actually built, that they do what they said they were going to do? And is there a process for addressing situations where maybe they don't?
Well, you have, in all of the projects that come before you, when they get funding in their development agreement or deeds of trust or declaration of restrictive covenants, you all have set a 99-year affordability period. And so a lot of these projects with their development will carry these affordability restrictions throughout the life of that project.
So I'm thinking about something like the energy efficiency requirements and handicapped accessibility. I mean, we plan to go back and double check and see that these things were done.
We monitor through construction and development, and in that, we can place in the development agreement that we get periodic updates after that's been completed. But there's been no monitoring of these projects. That's what the team and I are trying to put in place, and that's why some of these requests we have before you now allow us to monitor and note performance, as well as go back. But we can do something similar to what the home program requires when we do affordability periods there, is to come back every 5 or 10 years and see how you're meeting your goals. But that would have to be written into the development agreement with them.
So one other quick, just a thought for maybe the further evolution of this. This all looks really good. Looking at the transportation category, 5 points for related public transportation, related facilities and improvements available, bus shelters, accessible stops, et cetera. And then it mentions transportation provided by the new or renovated development. I'm guessing that'd be something like you build this housing development and you provide a van that would serve that. I wonder if that, looking as this gets tweaked later on, if that wouldn't be worth more points.
It could be. That's the pleasure of this board. We tried to keep it in line and not go too far-fetched. We also like to we will work with transportation and Mr. Letman to see where our routes are, so that when developers or whoever approach us, if they're doing it in more of our underserved areas, and hopefully Eflin, the fringes of where you all have put water and sewer or have entered into partnerships where water and sewer is provided, if the county is moving to on-demand services, we want to look at the totality of transportation needs and how this county is providing it. And that's why I would have to work with my colleague, the Director for Department of Transportation and the County Manager's Office. But yes, you can increase those points if you so choose.
So the reason you would do that is because if you have a development that has its own transportation for the folks that live there, that means the on-demand doesn't necessarily need to go there very often, if at all, right? So it becomes a real contribution to the county above and beyond just providing transportation. So it might be a nice little incentive to recognize that and put some more points in.
We can take that up to 10 points. I mean, it's the pleasure of the board.
Okay, Commissioner Green?
Yeah, following up on that discussion about transit and housing, I want to open a conversation that I don't know how everybody feels about it, and we really haven't had it since I've been on the board, and that is how serious are we about making sure that our new investment in affordable housing is transit accessible? And we know that the cost of transit is a high percent. We talk a lot about you shouldn't pay more than 30% of your income in rent or mortgages, but nationally we all pay about 20% of our income just in transportation costs, and so it's a critical component of affordable housing. I would like, I mean, I know we need to keep investing in existing homes and renovation and all that, but I would like to think about only investing in new projects that have very strong access to transit, and the private arrangement could count as well. So maybe we don't do that here. Maybe we. I really don't know how folks feel about that. But I'd like to, for example, propose that that number 5 in E say the project is located in an area that the county that is traditionally underserved by housing development, and if it is a new development, has proximate access to public transit. To transportation, whether public or provided by the new development. I mean, that says very clearly that we want it right there. I'd like to hear y'all's comments on this topic, if you...
Commissioner
Well,
Burson?
I mean, I think that's, one of the challenges is we've gone around a lot about this, is whether that means we're only going to be building housing in places that it's already served by transit. I mean, I think that Mark's idea is a good one, but I mean, the fact that some development provides a van doesn't necessarily mean it's an on-demand service that people who live there can say, take me to the grocery store or take me to the doctor, right? A lot of them, if you think of the ones that are around campus, they run people who live in those apartments to the university and back, and so I think we'd have to be real clear about what that meant. Having a van that takes you to downtown Hillsborough or downtown Chapel Hill, it would be a good progress, but I think that it would be good to have more conversation about this point that Sally's raising, which is, at some point the costs of building housing in areas traditionally underserved by housing development is going to be significantly cheaper than building it in Chapel Hill or Carborough, and so is there a way to factor in the transit costs, whether it's through on-demand services or something else, to do that? Not
really cheaper.
What?
It would not really be that much cheaper if you have to drive all that way to get into town to work.
Right, but it might be comparable, and if what we want to do is disperse some of this housing throughout the county, then that's a consideration. And I'm not saying that's what we should do, but I'm saying that's a conversation we've started. I had just some questions also, not to cut that conversation short. But, this idea, this number 5, it's located in an area of the county traditionally underserved by housing development, I think that's pretty ambiguous. I mean, what does that mean? Do we mean outside of the incorporated municipalities? Because if that's what we mean, that's what we should say.
Say it again, please. Sorry.
What traditionally underserved by housing development means. I mean, does that mean, that there's parts of Chapel Hill that doesn't have affordable housing? Does it mean parts in Core? Does it mean Eflin and places that are outside the municipalities? I mean, I think we need to be more specific about that, about that point. Also, I think that the question of the for-profit, nonprofit, I appreciate adding the points for nonprofits, but I think the points that go to a project that repays the funds and pays property taxes should be at least equal, right? Right now, if you're a private developer, we don't have one, but if you're a private developer and you say, we're going to repay the funds, and it's going to have property taxes, you get 12 points. And if you're a nonprofit, you get 15 points. It seems like those should at least be, because you wouldn't get the 3 points. It doesn't make sense that if you get 10 points for paying principal and interest, you also get 3 points for paying principal. That you're getting that twice in the way I read this.
You get
So-
a full 10 points if you pay principal and interest.
Right.
And you get that too, so I see your point there, 12.
So it's 12 instead of 15.
Yes, we can correct that.
And then the other point, just to be clear, I think this change about the number of units is a good one, because if we look at the projects that got funded last time, that would mean that the 2 one-unit project, or the one that's 1 unit and one that's 2 units, wouldn't have been funded through the bond. Right? If we make this change about it's 4 or more, then those projects wouldn't have been funded. I think that's good. I think that's a good change. Can you tell us, assuming we get through this and we approve it either tonight or very soon, what's the timeline for putting out the request for proposals and putting out the next round of this money?
We will put out the second phase, the 2.5 million, somewhere between August and September, and I'm thinking September, to have funds come in and ask to be able to bring them to you for some disposition, have them rated and ranked and brought to you by December, so that we could get letters out for folks who are submitting applications in January for any low-income housing tax credit. We're trying to synchronize to give developers, be they nonprofit or private, a leg up in being able to say that they've leveraged funds and make their applications more competitive. So we were trying to sync the two processes. And so we would hope to get them out between have the application period start August or September, probably would be September, with them being due in October, rated and ranked and coming to you by December.
Commissioner Green? And then Commissioner Price.
Thank you. Just to continue the points I wanted to make, just one more modest point on transit, and maybe, I don't know how it fits in with the others, but transit is an environmental issue, and so I'm wondering if we could, on number D4, I'm thinking access to transit should be included as an environmental impact that could get credit there. That's just a thought I want to put out there. D5, that's connected to water and sewer, will connect to existing service. I would think that would be a given. Why would we ever recommend any project that didn't meet those criteria?
You all had it. I didn't want to delete it, and so I left it. That was in the original. I'm trying to make changes, and I felt I did not want to come in and make major changes that would change it, but I wanted to change it. We just did not hear coming at this time before you.
Well, I mean, why is it not a given if it's talking about being consistent with the water and sewer boundary agreements and local standards? That's a given.
I agree with
Or
you,
use
but
a community well.
we inherited, so.
Right, so it would have to be, what circumstance would a project not get those 5 points?
What if it's built out in the county and they need to just build a well? What if it's like a single lot that they want to build and they need a private well?
Or private.
So we're going to, that's okay?
Well, it doesn't get the 5 points, but I mean,
I mean, it's going to have a hard time meeting many of these other requirements if that's all it is.
potentially.
Exactly, because it won't be more than 4, for one thing.
But then the other thing to keep in mind is that the requisite, they need to prove that the size or capacity of the system that they have built is adequate to support the development as well.
Sure.
So when they do that, they'll have to provide that they have gone to environmental, our
Sure,
environmental and
right.
state if they're putting in a small community system.
Right,
So
right.
maybe that's what the thinking was before,
Well-
to make sure.
Well, that makes sense, but I just, I just think that they would have to prove that anyway. I'm just not sure why there need to be any points for it, because it's something that they have to do anyway. But it sounds like I'm in a
Bobby wants to add
minority about
something
that,
to
yeah.
that,
So I recall when that was discussed by this board, and that was when there was some sensitivity that this was all moving more urban than rural, and so I think that was one of the reasons that that was left in.
Even though it has language about community well and sewer, which would not which would probably not be urban. Okay, well,
We added, we did
yeah,
add that.
that's
That was
okay.
in, wasn't it, Diane?
That was
Or-
in.
That was in, yes.
oh, it's not a big deal. It's just, it just seemed odd to me. Then the other point I wanted to raise was over on H, where you've got the experience of the applicant in carrying out projects of comparable scope and nature. And then number 2 is the applicant has proposed a team with demonstrated development, et cetera, experience. What if, for example, you had the applicant is a church or a community center that's proposing a cluster of small houses or tiny homes? That applicant may not have had any experience in developing anything like this nature. That's not their business. And yet they're bringing in partners who would have that experience and would be able to carry the project through. Because I can easily imagine that scenario, I would suggest that those points need to be equal, or that they both should be 10, perhaps, or both 5.
We normally you see the applicant having some experience carrying the weighted there, but we could certainly change the weight and look at, but if they don't have it, then their development team, their partners and development teams. So if you're thinking increasing, making both 5 or making both 10? Okay.
And then along those lines, I would change number 3 to the applicant and team members collectively have a successful record of meeting proposed budgets and timetables.
Okay.
Does that strike folks as reasonable?
Fine. Commissioner Price?
Well, that last point actually was one of my questions when I was reading this, the difference between the two, and as long as you're going to balance them, I won't go into that anymore, just to say that I support that. And since Commissioner Green had asked how we felt about the transit, and, the development being near transit, I absolutely believe that we should be doing transit-oriented development. I would just caution that limiting it to just where transit is now, and I think as Ms. Hampton was saying, that she's working with Theo Letman, so that if a development does occur somewhere else, in time we can send a bus there, change the bus route, and I'm thinking that as we continue, whether it's in Hillsborough, Carrboro, or Chapel Hill, we can continue to expand bus routes once we know that we have a critical mass. In some area, if we're going to build, we just have like 58 units. If someone builds 58 or 60 units, then you've got a reason to go slightly, to change route or add an additional route. So I'm in agreement with transit-oriented development, but realizing that as we grow, that we can also extend transit there.
Commissioner McKee?
No, I'm good.
You good? Commissioner Dorson?
Yeah, I just wanted to echo Sally's point about the transit being environmental, but I think it's worthwhile having them separate. I don't think because I think these other environmental impacts are worth highlighting, and I don't think we want to make it so people can get points twice for their transit-related stuff.
Yeah.
So,
I'm just trying to make my point every way I can.
Yeah, that's clear. But I think they are distinct, and the points are still there for the transit, so.
Yeah.
But I think this is a good revision, and I'm looking forward to seeing the next round of projects come through.
I like it also. I have a question about the extensions. So you said there'd be no more than 5 years, and then or no more than 3 years. Someone can come for an extension. What does that mean? How many times can someone come for an extension? You said we don't want to have the money for 20 years.
Yeah.
But then you're granting an extension. Is it one time?
1 year. 1 year.
And it's 1 year.
Unless you also choose to do something different.
So 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 one of them, okay, was 3 years and then one is 1 year. Is that, so they're,
3 years, you could get a 1-year
you
extension.
could get a 1-year extension?
If it's 5
Okay.
years, you could get a 1-year extension.
Okay. So it stays 1 year for both?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
May I ask if you would accept this on the experience, because experience is really key, and I really hate to cut number 1 to 5. Maybe, I know you, and I don't want to, so either could we increase 2 to 10?
Sure.
Because I think experience is key to the success of the project.
Okay.
Where are you?
Yeah, where was that?
On H.
Two.
H2 goes to
H2.
10.
So number 1 is 10, will stay 10, and then 2 instead of 5 would be 10 as well,
4 is 12.
or maximum of.
Yeah.
Okay. Is everyone good for now with comments and questions? So the manager is recommending that the board review and approve the second phase of proposed changes to the county's affordable housing bond program. So we made a lot of changes here. Does everyone feel comfortable voting on the changes that we put in for tonight? Just want to make sure.
Yes.
I mean, we can have,
Why don't we just bring it back on the consent agenda so we could see it one more time?
that was what I was going to recommend that, yeah. So is that okay with you, Ms. Hampton?
That's okay. I would like to add in the part about the monitoring, and we do a interval monitoring after they have completed their project, that a check-in could be every 5 years.
Yeah.
So it's not onerous, but because they're still in that affordability period, so.
Okay.
So we'd like to bring that back and include it, but bring it back.
That's great, thank you. So we're going to bring this back and put it on the consent agenda, and if anyone has additional comments, we can pull it from consent.
Yep.
Sound good? Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Okay, 6C is recommendations for employment, health insurance, and other benefits. The board will receive the manager's recommendations regarding employment, health, and dental insurance and other employee benefits effective July 1st, 2019 through June 30th, 2020, and consider voting to approve the county's continued participation as a member of the North Carolina Health Insurance Pool. And we have at our places a PowerPoint. And you are not Brenda, but Brenda's in front of us.
Good evening, Madam Chair and County Commissioners. I'm Brenda Bartholomew, the HR Director here in Orange County, and I have with me tonight Tanya Parker, who is our new Benefits Administrator, so we welcome her. And we also have David Costa here tonight, who represents the Gallagher's team, who's our broker of record. So I am here to present to you the abstract item 6C, as you've mentioned, which is the manager's recommendation for employee health insurance. The manager is recommending no increase to the 70 health insurance fund, which includes appropriation for employee and pre-65 retiree medical coverage and dental coverage for employees. This abstract prepares us for our open enrollment, which will be held April 15th through April 26th for coverage for 7/1/2019 through 6/30/2020. Just a brief review. Orange County has been self-funded since 2014, and over the past 5 years, Orange County has been proactive in minimizing increases to the Orange County budget without increasing costs to employees and pre-65 retirees or jeopardizing access to care. We have seen an average 6% since 2015 each year, and last year the board, in great effort to have some stability in budgets of the future, approved us joining the North Carolina Health Insurance Pool. We went into our budget last year with a total appropriation of $13.3 million, and that will be our appropriation recommendation for tonight. And I just want to introduce Dave again, who will give you a brief overview of how the pool is doing and how Orange County is doing in that pool.
Thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight, Commissioners. Once again, David Costa with Arthur J. Gallagher. I'm a benefit consultant. I work with Mr. Wes Grigston, who you've seen in prior years, help present on your plan, so thank you again. From a very high level, you guys are having a very good year on your health insurance. You joined the pool as an effort to help control future spend, so you're spreading these risks, large claimant risk, amongst your member partners. So that includes Catawba County, Brunswick County, Allegheny County, the town of Morrisville, the town of Hillsborough, and the town of Wake Forest. There will be more members joining effective 7/1/19, thus improves purchasing power and able to spread that risk over a larger population. Year to date, the total spend on your plan has been $5.5 million. You'll see this in the lower right-hand corner with a budget of $7.5, so a $2 million surplus. This includes what is needed in reserves of around $1 million, so you're sitting in a very good position. It's likely due to better claim activity this year than prior years. Like Brenda said, if you see in the gray column today, you spend about $12.9, almost $13 million on your health plan. That's what your budgeted rates are. The projected increase is a negative 0.3% next year, thus holding your rates flat, what you reserve, what you put into your appropriation for the pool. Wanted to touch on this. So one of the benefits of being in the pool is greater purchasing power. So what you're able to do inside this pool is receive better discounts on your drugs than you would on a standalone basis. So I wanted to illustrate that. And you really see that through rebates. Any brand drug a member of your health plan takes, there's a rebate attached to that. So through Blue Cross and Blue Shield, your projected rebates for the end of the year, you have a minimum guarantee of about $215,000, should be much closer to $250,000, and that will flow through into the reserves of this pool as well. Lastly, on the dental plan, once again, this plan is running well year to date. It is asking for no increase to your current funding levels, but for the current fiscal year, of July through, this is data through February, running at a $20,000 surplus. And when you factor in the underwriting and trends for future, that's still the current funding level will fund the plan appropriately. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions? I guess everyone likes it. It looks great. Thank you for all the work. And Tanya, thank you for finally meeting you. I'm sorry your emails were going to my spam. I don't know why, but we fixed that. Yeah. Okay, so the board is receiving the manager's recommendations regarding employee health care, and we are asked to improve no increase to the health care 70 fund for 1920, maintain the county's current level of health, dental, and other employee benefits, and approve the county's continued participation in the North Carolina Health Insurance Pool.
So moved.
Second. Okay, we got moved and seconded by Commissioner Price. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Against? All right, great.
Thank you, Board.
Thank you, passes great work,
Yes,
thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for your support.
Okay. Reports?
Consent.
Oh,
Mr.
oh, sorry, there we go. Consent agenda. We're not, does anyone want to pull anything? Okay, if not, can I get approval for consent?
So moved.
Second.
Dorson and McKee, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Against? Okay. County manager's report.
I don't have too much to report tonight. I would just ask you to look at the information item. There is one on the library's strategic planning process and some of their accomplishments, and I promised to mention that so that wouldn't get overlooked. And that concludes my report for this evening.
Thank you. County attorney's report?
Nothing tonight.
Okay. Sorry, I didn't mean to pass you all over for consent. So we have already taken care of 11A and B. Let's move to 11C, and this is the Arts Commission.
Make a motion?
Sure.
I'll nominate Delia Keefe for position 15.
Second.
Delia Keefe for 15. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Against? Okay. That takes care of C. Board of Equalization. We have 10 spots, and we can fill them with anyone. Is that correct, Donna?
There are 7 applicants only so far. We're still advertising. So you have, you can fill 3 members and 4 alternates.
Okay.
Yes,
Commissioner
Price.
Dorson?
Yeah, I'd like to nominate Hunter Beatty for one of the regular, position 1, regular member.
And I'd like to nominate Darren Satterfield for one of the regular members, number 2. I guess yours would be number 1, so number 2.
Okay, so we got one more regular member. Does anyone want to?
I'd like to nominate Pamela Davis.
For 3, as a regular?
For number 3, regular? Okay, so let's vote on those 3 regular members. So we have Hunter Beatty, we have Satterfield, and Pam Davis for position 1, 2, and 3. All those in, oh, I need a motion. Oh, we got motions.
I'll second all 3 of them.
Second, thank you. I was looking for the second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Okay, against? Okay. So do we want to just start filling the rest up? Or would you like to take a look at that?
Well,
Darryl?
I would nominate, the only thing is I noticed that Susan Ballard is also a nominee for the next
Yeah.
board. And I know this is an alternate position, but I would nominate Barbara Levine for position 4, Reginald Morgan for position 5, and Blaine Schmidt for position 6, and then I'd leave Susan Ballard off because it looks like she's going to get appointed to the Historic Commission.
Okay.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Against? Okay.
And you also need to appoint a chair.
And we need to appoint a chair from the 3 regular members, correct?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I'll nominate Pamela Davis.
We have nomination for Pam Davis. Second?
Second.
Oh, sorry. Second, yep. What if she doesn't want to be the chair?
Yeah.
I mean, can they, what, then what?
Is there,
too
nobody
bad.
on it now?
That's a good question.
I mean, should the 3 of them just decide, or?
Well, I think we decide, and then if she doesn't want it, it'll come back to us.
Back to you. Okay.
Then we'll just fire her entirely.
Okay, so we have Pam Davis was nominated chair and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Against? Okay, so that takes care of that. And then 11E, Commissioner Dorson, did you want to?
Nope.
Okay. 11E, we have 5, 6, and 7, and they are making recommendations.
I'm going to nominate Susan Ballard for 5, Art Menius for 6, and Todd Dickinson again for 7.
Second.
Okay. That was the second.
And seconded by Commissioner Green. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Against? Okay, that is good. You all have your information items that you can read up on, and we do have a closed session tonight. To discuss matters related to the location or expansion of industries or other businesses in the area served by the public body, including agreement on a tentative list of economic development incentives that may be offered by the public body in negotiations, NCGS 143-318.11A4.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Green, and then Commissioner McKee. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Just kidding.
Okay.
No, I'm not kidding. I voted no, but I will go.
We are going into closed session. Thank you, everyone.
At least one.